Okay, nervous tissue. You have a little bit of writing to catch up with me here. Sure you can do it. So we're going to talk about nervous tissue. I'm going to focus on neurons. Neurons send electrical signals. In anatomy and physiology, we call these action potentials. Then there are neuroglial cells. They essentially take care of the neurons. But the big picture of what I want you to see here is that you have electrical signals going out from your brain to your organs, and you have electrical signals going from your organs to your brain. If you get a red pen, we'll use that to talk about the motor output. A motor neuron is going to make something move or work. The targets are going to be muscle or glands. Three kinds of muscle: smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and skeletal muscle. And really affecting a gland is the smooth muscle that surrounds it. So essentially that's like affecting the smooth muscle around a gland. Now it is true that there can be nervous input on other cells that cause all kinds of fascinating functions. But for the purposes of this class, if you just think of a motor neuron as making a muscle do something and understanding that that's smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, or skeletal muscle, you'll be well prepared for a health career. So the direction of the electrical signal, or the action potential, comes like this to the end of the neuron. It only goes the one direction. So it's really important to know where this is coming from. Well, this is the soma, or the cell body of a neuron. All these are what are called dendrites. And where would this be? Well, it would be in the brain or spinal cord. So it would be in the central nervous system. And then the axon can project all the way out to a target. And that target can be muscle, smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, or skeletal muscle. It could make the GI tract constrict. It could make a blood vessel constrict. It could make the uterus constrict. It could make the heart beat faster or slower. It could make a skeletal muscle constrict harder or more gently. Okay, then let's look at a sensory, and we'll use blue for sensory. Now, this would be where the action potential begins, and this would be located in the organ. So it might be a muscle sending stretch information so that you don't tear, or a tendon. Those would also have stretch receptors. What about pain receptors? Or just generalized touch receptors. Temperature receptors. Let's think about other senses that you have in your face. These are what we call the special senses. Cranial nerve number 1 gives you sense of vision. It fires so its action potentials would be fired in response to light. And then there's sound receptors. They fire their action potentials due to hearing waves. sound waves in the air. What about taste? They fire their action potentials in response to chemicals in the foods that you eat. Smell is just like that. So both of these respond to chemicals. And vision and sound, they're responding to waves. It's just light waves versus sound waves. Then there's something called, oh wait, that's not a special sense though. So we've got stretch receptors, pain receptors, touch receptors, temperature receptors, special senses that we went through there, and then something called proprioception. This has to do with gravity. And what it does is the movement of the limbs is reported back to the brain. So with your eyes closed, you know where your arms are, where your legs are, where they are positioned. Okay, so let's look back up at that sensory neuron again. In this case, instead of the action potential going from the brain or spinal cord out to the organ, it's the other way around. So it goes from the organ to the brain or spinal cord. So compare that to the motor neuron. It sends its signaling from the brain or spinal cord out to an organ, maybe a muscle. Sensory does the other way around. The action potentials are fired from the organ to talk back to the brain or spinal cord. So your brain or spinal cord can control what happens, but your organs are always telling the brain or spinal cord how things are going. And that communication allows the body to be able to maintain homeostasis, sending a response when it's needed.